Speaking of Dean Jones, we're about to get evangelical Christian up in this bit.
Nice. Oh, God, was he?
Oh, yeah, no, Dean Jones, the reason he left company, after a month of its run in New York.
I thought his wife left him.
His wife was leaving him because they were both, alcoholics and completely bitter, miserable people. And so he was like, well, I need to do something. And someone was like, Jesus? Do you want to do the Jesus thing? And he's like, yes. And that's why Dean Jones's 2 Broadway musicals are Company, where his life fell apart, and Into the Light, an evangelical musical that's all about how the Shroud of Turin is real.
Hell yeah.
Luke, Eleanor, do you have opinions on the Shroud of Turin?
I'm pro Shroud of Turin, obviously, because I think that shit whips.
You can, if you just roll it up and whip it at somebody in the locker room. That's what Jesus used to do all the time with his friends.
That's right.
Guess for me, I think that the Shroud of Turin and the concept of realness with relics is... It doesn't matter because it's all about how you're feeling it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I take the Evangelian approach to Catholicism, which is I'm opposed to it except for the parts that I find neat or cool.
Yeah.
I like that they have RPG talismans in the religion. I think that's neat.
Yes.
It's also funny when someone's like, here's the spear of Longinus, the spear that pierced the side of Christ. And then 10 other people pipe up we've got one too. What the hell is this? Hey, what's this? I'm not handing it to Voltaire. I'm just saying that it's really fucking funny when that happens.
Especially not on this podcast. Jesus Christ.
No.
That guy's a jerk.
His strident early proto-Reddit atheism is always funny.
So many possible worlds, but we got this one. So many possible worlds, but we got this one.
Welcome to the Worst of All Possible Worlds, the first and only podcast that is dedicated to the preservation of strident Reddit atheism. I am the worst of all possible AJs.
I'm the worst of all possible Brian's.
And I'm the worst of all possible Josh's.
And this week we're doing something a little fun. You notice that it said Whit's Endless Summer in the little brackets on the title, but this is not a typical Whit's Endless Summer. It just happens to intersect with Adventures in Odyssey by the end.
What is a typical Whit's Endless Summer? It is the ongoing subseries of the Worst of All Possible Worlds in which we listen to episodes of Adventures in Odyssey, the Christian children's radio drama produced by Focus on the Family.
And this time we are looking at a piece of evangelism. We are looking at it through a historical lens. Don't turn it off. Don't hit stop. I swear this is going to be interesting.
We have 2 great guests here to help us who are regularly making history entertaining on their own podcast. Yes. We're not so different, and I would love to welcome them now. Luke and Eleanor, hello.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
And the reason that we've gotten you here is because the piece of history that we are discussing today is a medieval morality play, but those in the know, we shorten it to morality, called Everyman, about a guy who's about to croak, and he finds out that the world is full of fake friends.
And the thing that's important about Everyman and what you need to understand is that in the medieval period, we hadn't invented subtext yet.
No.
Right?
No.
So that's why. So we're just coming at you. It's Everyman. All right?
But you know what we had invented was a bunch of monks queening it up with their friends. I think
So
that's
true.
the most important thing to take away from it.
Yeah.
Just to do a little table setting before we jump into the topic at hand, Luke and Eleanor, we actually came on your show not too long ago to talk about medieval morality plays. And now you are here on our show to talk about medieval morality plays. I'm really excited. But for folks who are not familiar with y'all and what you do, what should they know?
We are historical materialists, which is cool and sexy. I think we can all agree. But
Yes.
I'm a medieval historian. Luke is my fellow communist. And we're here to tell you why you should pay attention to the medieval period, because nobody does. And it gets a bit frustrating. So we're constantly having to wrestle the specter of Voltaire, which people agree with too readily. Yeah, so we're here to tell you that there's no such thing as feudalism, but certainly there is manorialism, and also it's much more complex than that. But also, we like to support things like killing monarchs, things of this nature.
When you think about the Middle Ages, you have to think about two things. You have to think about the fact that we're not so different positive, and we're not so different negative.
Yeah, the stupidest thing we keep doing over and over again is going to the fucking theater.
Yeah.
So thank you, Everyman, for proving our point.
I'm just going to let this out here up top, but like we're going to talk through Everyman, which was a play that was written probably in the late 1400s. And then we're going to sort of trace more modern versions of Everyman designed for evangelizing or religious instruction in the same way that Everyman is. So we're going to talk about Jack Chick's famous tract, This Was Your Life, and its variants. And we're going to, of course, close it out with an episode of Adventures in Odyssey, which provides a final twist on the whole ordeal.
You have said that you want to hear more episodes about theater. So you're going to get them, motherfucker. That's what we're giving you.
That's right.
I hope you like it.
Some of the worst theater you've ever seen in your goddamn life.
We could honestly probably do an episode on its own about secular variations on Everyman. And there have been some very high profile ones recently, like Everybody by Brandon Jacobs Jenkins.
They'll
get a mention here, but we're not going to spend a whole lot of time discussing those because that's a broad subject all on its own.
All I can think of is the Backstreet Boys song, Everybody. So, anyway.
So to talk about Everyman the play, this starts as a Dutch play in the late 15th century. The attribution of it is given to a Peter of Deist.
We're like Peter of Deist nuts.
Got his ass.
Blah, 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 blah.
And we're not entirely sure who Peter of Deist is. It's just referring to some guy named Peter.
He's
in
Deist nuts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people of Deist nuts, though. It's the Netherlands.
Way I'm doing my thing. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's just a name that's given to the guy. That comes from one of the Latin translations. This seems to be something that kind of set the world on fire a little bit. It was originally written in Dutch, translated twice into Latin within 20 or 30 years, and brought over to England. It wasn't published in English until the 1530s. We don't know who the author is, and it was probably a little bit older than that. It's possible that it had been performed for, maybe 20 or 30 years before it was published. So the most famous version of this is not the Dutch one, but the English one, Everyman. And it's also where we get the term Everyman, a word that people use all the time. Usually it's interesting because like some of the later adaptations, the secular adaptations of Everyman, they usually depict this character as being rich. And you could surmise that he's probably rich from this play as well.
Right.
Whereas usually the term Everyman today connotes a sort of like working class attribute, which I think is kind of interesting.
An average Joe.
Yeah. So people can listen to the episode of your show that we went on to hear a little bit more about the context of these plays, how they were put on by the Catholic Church, how they were then not put on by the Catholic Church because the priests and the monks were getting too queeny with it.
Which is something I know that you love, Eleanor.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I am very specifically interested in clergy who are queening the fuck out.
Yeah.
In particular, I am here to support the wrongs of the clergy. Sir, are you running a brothel out of your own home attached to the parish? Brilliant. Keep that up. The secret children, the charging people for stuff like burials. I love it. These are my people. And shout out in particular to the one Prague priest in the 14th century who's my favorite guy because he got caught in a brothel and like his parishioners were mad at him. So homeboy just like ran out of there bare ass naked and was running down the streets in the middle of Prague. And to me, this is shepherding. This is the Lord's work.
Yeah, no, that's a vibe.
This is what I want to see.
That's a priest.
That's where the surname D's Nuts came from.
Yeah,
He was
that's right.
running down the street and they went, those nuts.
Yeah.
It's like, no, they're D's Nuts.
It's like
Das nuts.
in Czech, it's like Dij. There's like a hot check over the side. It's fine. Like,
Well, that priest too, that was the first twink hunter.
yeah, absolutely.
It started
Absolutely.
a long storied Bohemian tradition of hunting twinks.
Look, we have a beautiful culture.
So these plays, like Everyman, the topic of the day, not so much the twinks being hunted, but this was usually done like on a cart somewhere. We don't have a record of it being performed. This isn't like the Elizabethan age where we have like a stationer's record of like the first time a Shakespeare or a Fletcher or a Marlowe was performed or something like that. So the first recorded performance of Everyman that we have is from 1901. There's an Elizabethan society in the UK that decides to fire up a production that gets really popular, comes to the United States. And for some reason, when it comes over to the US, it starts this sort of series, this like tour of Everyman where they always cast a woman as Everyman.
Oh, love that.
So, and then it leads to a number of adaptations in Austria and other things.
The version that we read for this episode, that is the translation that was used for those performances, right?
I mean, so this is holding on to most of the language is modernized. They've thrown out a few of the antiquated words, but they've held on to a couple others where they just sort of needed to get a rhyme or to get the scansion.
Because I think that's another important point, obviously, is that this play was written and performed in Middle English for the most part.
And the version of the script that we're looking at is modern English. It's certainly contemporary spelling, but it is a faithful text. They took the Middle English and they transliterated for the most part and then translated where they absolutely had to just take away words that we wouldn't otherwise know. But if you look at them side by side, if you look at the sentence structure, if you look at the antiquated second person pronouns and the verb conjugations, it's the play.
I remember that in high school, we read Canterbury Tales in Middle English.
Hell yeah.
But we were given no primer on how to do that. Our teacher was just like, yeah, you figure it out from context.
Just
And I'm
read
like,
it,
Not
loser.
necessarily.
My Middle English is only okay because I'm not an English specialist, but
You can order food and ask where the bathroom is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The joke that we have, that medievalists have, because we're really cool and fun to hang out with, is the joke is you have to squint your ears.
Oh, I love that.
And
good, yeah.
so a lot of the time, things will make more sense if you're confused and you try to say it out loud. It sort of helps a little bit.
Yeah.
So your reading comprehension can be a little bit slower than your ears.
I grabbed a radio production of it from 1948 that was done by MBC, not NBC, MBC, and produced by the Episcopal Church with the assistance of like the Episcopal Actors Association, which included people, such luminaries
I need to know everything about the Episcopal
This is just what people
Association.
did back then. This was a normal, like Boris Karloff is in this group of actors.
Wow.
Oh, great. Okay.
And so this is just an old radio adaptation that I was able to find because I thought like us sitting here and reading it out, the language is, it's clunkier than Shakespeare. This was not written by a poet.
Yeah.
This was written by a guy. And you can tell.
I'm sure that this is a very good recording that you found, Brian. I doubt it's as good as the Lego version that I found.
Well, yeah, you found a Lego. You found a Lego version. There's not the Lego version. I have found 3 so far. Because this seems to be, I don't know, kids in Catholic school or something doing school assignments where they make like a 3-minute summary of Everyman with
the
Legos.
one that I found just absolutely nailed the tone. But basically the gist of it is that you've got this guy named Messenger, right? He's the one who's opening it and telling everybody, hey, welcome to the show. And he's like, you know what? We're all getting older. As you get older, things in your life start to fade away. And you, audience member, guess what? You're just like this guy, Everyman, over here. And Everyman, it turns out, has been called home. Death has showed up and said, hey, Everyman, time to go die now. And Everyman is like, no, I don't wanna.
He's just like me for real,
Yeah.
So the messenger kind of provides a thesis. He's like, this is what the play is going to be. It's going to be how he's abandoned by his fake friends, and then he dies. And then God the Father shows up on stage.
Finally.
Slash also Jesus. He's like both the creator and the guy who's like, I got up on a cross for all of you ungrateful assholes.
And people aren't scared of him in the same way.
Yeah.
What a baby.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm God. Oh, I created the heavens and the earth and everything. And time is a sequential thing that I can move in and out of at any point. I am all knowing. Yet he says, oh, how all creatures are to me unkind. Shut the fuck up.
Everybody's very unfair
Are you the creator of the fucking universe or not?
Grow up.
Don't you have anything
better to do?
Oh, I'm alone. It's so lonely being God. Then create a girlfriend or boyfriend for yourself and shut the fuck up.
Oh yeah, get God's ass.
I hate. Oh, you're gonna hear a lot of this because this is the stuff that when I left the Church of Christ, this is all the ways that I felt about all of this shit.
Get him, Luke.
Yeah. Oh, you're the creator of the universe. Why don't you create some pussy, bitch? Like,
But Brian,
Yeah.
is there a fleshlight so big that not even God can make it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, so true.
The reason why
So
God is
true.
saying all creatures that live are unkind to me is because they're not afraid of death enough. That is specifically, canonically, textually. And I was like, oh, right, this is a Catholic play.
Yeah, baby.
Look, basically, medieval God is kind of lonely. This is true. Medieval God, we haven't also invented hobbies yet,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of like part of the problem. But
What about Whitland?
we had apparently invented the male loneliness epidemic, but specifically for God. So that's pretty good. Yeah.
So God is like, okay, well, since I'm lonely, since I can't have an 8th day where I create bitches, I'm going to call up my good friend Death, who just does what I want him to do. And it's like, well, this is why you're lonely. And so Death is like, okay, I'm going to go down and I'm going to summon Everyman to be taken into account, and we'll figure out whether he goes to heaven or hell. So we have ourself in this little 7th seal situation where Death walks up to Everyman and is speaking very spookily to him, and Everyman is like, I don't know who you are.
Leave
Oh,
me
you
alone.
don't know me. I'm Death. Like
you're
no?
Okay.
Am I
Cool,
supposed to
bitch.
see you everywhere?
You're
What is
going
the-
like, oh, I'm going to take you someplace you've never been before, and I have not met you before. I do not know that you are the psychopomp, and we've got to get working on this. So in this clip that I grabbed from the old 1948 radio drama, Death introduces himself.
Make preparation that we be on the way. For know thou well, thou shalt make none attorney.
Full unready am I such reckoning to give. I know thee not. What messenger art thou?
I am Death.
Thou comest when I had thee least in mind. In thy power it lieth me to save. Of my goods I will give thee, if ye will be kind. Yea, £1,000 shalt thou have, and thou defer this matter till another day.
Everyman. It may not be by no way. I set not by gold, silver, nor riches, nor by pope, emperor, king, duke, nor princes. For if I would receive gifts great, all the world I might get. But my custom is clean contrary. I give thee no respite. Come hence.
So Everyman skips those other stages of grief and goes straight to bargaining. He's like, what if I give you $100 and then you leave me alone till next week?
Typical rich guy. What can I say? Yeah.
I'm glad you pay you Tuesday for more life today.
And, it's very Trailer Park Boys. He's going to give you $100 to fuck off. It's that, and in very many ways, like I think
You're coming to kill me. What the heck, Julian?
Yeah, it's like this is in my opinion, Ricky is actually Everyman.
I was trying to think of like what a modern production of this would look like, and I think you're right, Eleanor. It's Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think would really make this sing in a way, because I know the public theater in New York would probably just make Everyman Donald Trump and have him see the error of his ways.
No.
We need to get Laura Loomer to storm the stage again.
Yeah.
What's she been up to? You know?
Yeah,
Make her an actual paid operative. Yeah.
She's one of the fake friends.
That's what makes this kind of an odd play to do in the modern setting, because it's, if you spend time and throw in some songs, it's an hour long at most. Like, it is not a long play. And so we don't really like to produce it these days because we like to do plays that are, I don't know, at least 80 minutes, I guess you could pair it with something.
Or you figure out a gimmick, right?
Yeah.
Like that was what they did at the Signature Theater a few years ago when Brandon Jacobs Jenkins, who just won a Tony and a Pulitzer, by the way, he's probably the best, the hottest playwright of the moment.
Absolutely.
But a few years ago, he did an adaptation called Everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
where there were, I want to say 8 cast members and everybody learned every part. And they would basically draw parts out of the bowl at the beginning and then just decide who was going to be whom.
Yeah. Everyman has now been given his death warrant. What's funny is like, because this play needs to keep going and they need to keep the like metaphors going along, Death is like, no, I wait for nothing. I don't take any money. I'll be back this evening. He does in fact leave. So Everyman has about the day.
True.
And then the day sort of occupies both, like, it's like, yeah, it is going to be like right at sundown that you're going to croak, but also it's kind of like a day in the sense of like the Sphinx talking to Oedipus, where he kind of lives a whole life after this point.
And so Everyman now has basically enough time to find his friends and see who is willing to come along with him on his journey to death, essentially. Yeah. And so the first guy that Everyman runs into is a guy named Fellowship.
Yep.
Fellowship had actually previously promised to come along and immediately starts waffling.
Like he's like,
hell yeah.
I will die for you, Everyman. And then Everyman's like, great, I'm dying. And Fellowship's like, peace.
Would you like me to kill someone for you?
Yeah, he's like, okay, so like I won't die, but I will kill. How about that?
Right. Because basically the gist of it is like, sure, dying, like that's a whole thing, but at the end of the day, it doesn't sound quite as fun as like drinking or hanging out with lusty women.
Okay, damn, all right, well, so, and now I'm the problem. I see how it is. Fair enough.
Well, speaking of fair, too, is this where the phrase fair weather friends comes from? Because there's a line
he does
I have
say something about fair weather,
here. I would not forsake you while the day is clear. Trust me verily. And it's like, is that where that comes from?
Quite possibly, I would say. You know, it all comes from something, doesn't it? And my homeboy is out here being like, only if it's sunny.
The minute there's rain, I'm not going to that parade.
I got to tell you, for an English friend, that's like, we're talking a very limited amount of time. That's all I'm saying.
It can be a little difficult to know just how much of this play is supposed to be funny, but I feel like this scene is supposed to be humorous. I feel like Fellowship is supposed to be a goofy guy. I again, before in the early scene where he's like, I am death. That was funny, but maybe not on purpose. But it ends with Everyman saying, will you forsake me? And Fellowship goes, yay, by my fae.
Yeah.
He just runs off.
That's correct.
And so the next guys that Everyman runs across is kindred and cousin, basically 2 relatives of his,
so,
right?
Yeah, beyond friends, you have family. Family has a duty to be with you at your moment of death. And they fold even faster.
Yeah, cousin's like, I have a toe cramp. Sorry. That's the actual line.
I
love
love
it.
that the same bullshit excuses to get out of like work or something you want to do have always been around. Oh, I can't. Oh, my head. Fingers.
Like I really appreciated this though. I don't know, man. I was at old people like Coachella here in London, which is to say one of the LCD sound system residency nights the other day.
God.
The floor of the Brixton Academy is raked, and I was jumping up and down.
Oh, that was it. Was that at O2 Academy Brixton?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Don't worry, I'm going again on Thursday.
Let's go. Hell yeah.
But my toes hurt now from standing all night. And I'm all like, so real, cousin. Like, I don't know if I can make it out today. You know, my toesies hurt.
Well,
so,
Eleanor, I have some news. I'm dying and I need you to come with me.
Oh, shit.
Sorry, AJ. No.
Yeah.
Fuck. Damn.
Yeah.
Every
Everyman
time.
is then approached by podcast co-hosts, and they're like, no, we have to get the next episode out. We have to keep producing content. For God's sake, Everyman, the Patreon.
If you die, this is going to fuck up my money, bro. What is your problem?
Speaking of money flow and material riches, right? The very next guy up is Goods. Everyman runs across Goods, and he's like, look, I've got all this money. Like, surely I can use some of this shit to help pave the way to death, right? Like, my material resources can help me in this journey. But Goods is basically like, I can't love you back, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Goods is the least fake. Of all the friends.
Yeah.
Like, Good's like, I don't know who told you what, but I am literally property, not an individual.
Right. Here,
So,
we'll play the clip of Goods because, once the moment comes where he's like, oh, yeah, we're not useful to each other anymore, he shows his true face immediately.
Alas, I've loved thee and had great pleasure all my life days on goods and treasure.
That is to thy damnation without ending.
Get his ass.
For love of me is contrary to the love everlasting. But if thou hadst loved me moderately, and to the poor given part of me, then shouldst thou not in this dolour be, nor in this great sorrow and care.
Lo, now was I deceived ere I was aware, and all I may blame my misusing of time.
What? Thinkest thou that I am thine?
I had thought so.
Nay, Everyman, I say no. But for a while was I lent thee. A season thou hast me in prosperity. My condition it is man's soul to kill. If I save one, 1,000 do I spill. Thinkest thou that I will follow thee? Nay, from this world, not verily.
Well, I had thought otherwise.
Therefore, to thy soul, goods is a thief.
Yeah, at the very beginning, he's just like, goods can get you everything. You know, if you don't have it, goods can get you it. He's got all these little bon mots. And then this moment, he's like, no, I'm just here to fuck you up, man.
You thought I, like me? Goods? There's like 10 verses in the Bible alone. Jesus said like 10 or 15 things alone about how I'm bad. You
like, I'm not a good guy,
idea?
dude.
You fucking idiot. You goddamn rube.
I'm just sacks with dollar signs printed on me. I don't know what you want
He
from me.
basically literally says that. He's like, oh, yeah, I just like to sit in the corner of rooms in the cuck chair, in the cuck chest.
Yeah. My favorite thing about this in that it's like, well, I had thought, so there's this really great colloquial Englishism. This might be a Derbyism, for which I blame my boyfriend, who is from the great city of Derby here in England. And you say, you know what thought did? And the long form of you know what thought did is followed a shit cart and thought it was a wedding.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, really good. So, you know, just like what I had thought, and I'm like, you know, if it was me down the pub, I would prove my advanced Britishness by saying, you know what thought did.
It's great, too, because Everyman was performed on the shit cart. It was, you know, by the Shit Workers Guild that put it on every year.
He was the least popular mysteries play.
And yet, you know, one of the most important guilds. Shout out to the Night Soilmen. We love and appreciate you in this house.
So anyway, goods, now having fully fucking abandoned our Everyman, is followed by good deeds, which in the text is good hyphen deeds. So I'm going to say good deeds.
This is the first broad that we know
Oh, yeah,
of
true,
in this,
true,
in this
true.
cast. Like she comes on and they refer to her as a woman.
And good deeds is pretty solid overall, but doesn't have a lot of like energy or it can't really do much.
She's lying on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thankfully, she has a sister who's willing to hang out named Knowledge. And knowledge and good deeds lead Everyman to a holy man named Confession, because it's like, look, bro, in order to like get right with God, you have to confess, and confession prompts Everyman to just fully break down and ask God for forgiveness.
Quite right, too.
Yeah, because good deeds is Everyman, this version of Everyman, who again does represent all of us, his virtues are completely outweighed by his sins. Right. And so the sins are actually keeping her on the ground, and she's not strong enough to fight them off.
I feel like she doesn't want to get up. I feel like it's not that she's being forced to. She's just like, I
don't feel like it.
today.
Sorry, my toe.
Sorry, my toe. But also, I do want to say that one of the joys of reading this is the really forced rhymes at certain points. And
for sure.
There's a bit where Good Deeds has, and this is just one small example, but Good Deeds says, Everyman, I am sorry for your fall, and fain would I help you, and I were a ball.
And I were a ball?
Able, but to make the rhyme work,
Yeah,
you have
has
to
to
say
be, yeah.
a ball.
A ball.
Well, I wonder whenever you come across, because this is just full of like these Dickinsonian half rhymes, and I'm assuming a lot of these were true rhymes back in 1500.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they just had enough vowel shifts. But there are some really funny rhymes in here where it was like, they're trying to rhyme something and they mention the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross being done with great smart, meaning pain. But it's just
it's smart.
Shit smarts, sure.
Ooh, this crucifixion really smarts.
These nails through my hand. Oh, it's just like that time I stubbed my toe.
Which still hurts, by the way.
My toe is still fucked up.
It's far worse than getting put on the cross. Far worse.
Absolutely.
But yeah, knowledge ends up being really important, and knowledge represents like the breadth of all knowledge, which I feel is maybe a little too much for this character to have to hold down. But yeah, she's like, well, you have learned that confession will do away with your sin. So let's go to this guy who is confession, who is also a body of water. And I really want to know what they did on that shit cart for this production.
Just a bucket with googly eyes.
And confession is like, again, this is a medieval Catholic play. So confession is like, okay, here we go. Here's what you have to do.
I know your sorrow well, Everyman. Because with knowledge ye come to me, confession, I will comfort you as well as I can. And a precious jewel I will give thee, this robe called penance, wise voider of adversity. Therewith shall thy body chastised be, with abstinence and perseverance in God's service. Here shalt thou receive that scourge of me,
Literal
which
scourge.
is penance strong that you must endure. Remember,
Ow.
thy Savior was scourged for thee
my
with
toe.
sharp scourges, and suffered it patiently. So must thou, ere thou escape that painful pilgrimage. Knowledge, keep him in this voyage, and by that time good deeds will be with thee.
Yeah, so Everyman's got to flog himself a bit. This play just got hot.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We love it.
I'm imagining him doing this and like cousin being like 3 feet away and being like, and seeing like blood running down his back, Everyman sobbing, like just, it hurts so bad. And knowledge is like just there. And cousin's over there, like sighing louder, looking for any attention, like, oh, my toe. Yeah. Oh, I wish someone cared to look. Oh.
I just have to point out, though, that even in the Middle Ages, like flagellants who show up, during the Black Death, they strip themselves to the waist, they start beating themselves on the back, and they're like, look, God, if you're trying to punish the world, we'll get out in front of that. And even in the Middle Ages, everyone was like, I'm pretty sure this is a sex thing. Yeah. they're like, dude, guys, it's just, ooh. And like everyone was really suspicious of them because they just figured it was sexual. So you aren't being modern if you think that when you hear this, just so you know.
Wow. I know I've already mentioned that Lego adaptation that I really, really like on YouTube. There's a great, to depict this, they make a really great choice where Everyman grabs a little Lego pickaxe and drags it across his back. And the sound effect is just, psh, ow, psh, ow, psh, ow.
It's so good.
This better
it's
not
really
awaken
good.
anything in me.
It's like
really
an old,
good.
it's like an old Looney Tunes cartoon where somebody's walking across hot coals. Ooh,
Yes.
Well, and there's a moment right after where Knowledge, they mention this garment, and Knowledge hands him the garment, and it's hard for me to tell if this is like a metaphorical type thing or if he's wearing a hair shirt. It kind of sounds like Knowledge is saying, put on this hair shirt so that you can continue that sort of stuff. But I don't know if that would be of the period or of the place.
Yeah, what is going on here?
If I could be serious for a second instead of just the normal goofs that I'm throwing in. I mean, I do think that when we read this as a didactic, and I mean, I do think that they 100% meant this as didactic. There are, I think, probably a couple of light jokes in there, like the Fairweather Friends thing that you guys were mentioning and the toe hurting and stuff. But after that, it gets pretty fucking serious and like obviously clearly because he uses a real scourge. So, I mean, no, I think that they mean like he was given a hair shirt. He's supposed to evoke like a rich man being given a hair shirt and going into like the city square and being like,
sorry, huge dipshit here. What's a hair shirt?
Oh,
go ahead, Eleanor.
Yeah, they're like a really uncomfortable shirt that is like super itchy and it fucks your skin up.
Yeah, literally made out of hair. Yeah.
And so you usually wear one specifically in order to like do penance or prove that you're super holy. So for example, when Thomas Becket gets killed by Henry II, who will rid me of this troublesome priest, etc., etc.
Yes.
They like take off his clothes when they're getting his body ready, and he was wearing a hair shirt underneath. And like any saint,
he was such a good man.
Any saint who's a king king is secretly wearing a hair shirt underneath their robes, things like this. So it's like you're intentionally mortifying your body.
It keeps you grounded in sort of the suffering of the physical suffering of the human condition.
Exactly.
I mean, as an Italian, I don't need a hair shirt. I just grow that shit naturally.
It's a beautiful culture.
Since you can't have do the actual like scourging of yourself, you have to when you're the king, you have to wear it under there, and then everybody finds out and they're like, oh, he was so holy this entire time. He was wearing the same.
Yeah, he suffered just like us, right? Like, there's also like rituals of like wearing shoes that have stuff poking you in them and things like that. Yeah, there are a lot of saints like I can think of.
Well, not beating the kink allegations.
This all sounds like sex stuff to me.
The guy who started Opus Dei, Jose Maria Escriva, he for his entire life had a garter that he wore that dug into his flesh. Like it had it had little things that would dig into it because he believed in like mortification of the flesh, and that's something that Opus Dei was like big on, and I think they still kind of are to a certain extent. So like this guy's constantly walking around with like a garter in his thigh, just like eating into his skin and bleeding, and you're like, that's a fetish. I don't care what you say. And I'm not judging you. I am not judging you for that fetish. I might judge you for the way that you judge other people's fetishes and you have one of your own. But
I think to pull that back to Everyman for a second, too, it's like this is the point at which he is now experiencing a degree of physical pain to show that he, too, is like, yes, he's experienced the sacrament, one of the important sacraments of confession, but he also is experiencing the physical pain that comes with the human condition on your way to death. Right. And right out of here, then, he summons some additional buds, discretion, strength, 5 wits, and beauty. And 5 wits lays out the sacraments.
For of the blessed sacraments, pure and benign, he beareth the keys, and thereof hath the cure for man's redemption, that is ever sure. Which God for our soul's medicine gave us out of his heart with great pine. Here in this transitory life, for thee and me, the blessed sacraments 7 there be. Baptism, confirmation, with priesthood good, and the sacrament of God's precious flesh and blood, marriage, the holy extreme unction, and penance. These 7 be good to have in remembrance, gracious sacraments of high divinity.
Fain would I receive that holy body, and humbly to my spiritual father go.
That is the best that ye can do. Farewell, Everyman.
I go to priesthood to beg the sacrament of God, and may his grace allow me swift return.
God will you to salvation bring, for priesthood exceedeth all other things.
So he does more sacraments off stage. And
yeah, so true.
I'm here with all my sacraments. They're cutting up and having fun.
Smiling
just out frame.
And 5 wits, for those who don't know, 5 wits means your Aristotelian senses, right? Your smell, your sight, your hearing, your touch. She goes on this whole rant against bad priests that I think is really funny. It's like
because they couldn't get away from it at this point. Like you can tell. So like, and this is something I felt was interesting about it. This is written at the time we are like within a few decades of Martin Luther. We are real close. 1517. This was probably like the earliest versions written in the later 1400s. So we're like 30, 40 years from Martin Luther, and like all of these problems with the Catholic Church that Luther wrote about are still there, and these people know that and they can see it. So this does include a part where they're like, oh, and all those bad priests, they're really bad, you know, like it includes that because it's so omnipresent in their world that you cannot even have a didactic play without it.
Right. Yeah.
Well, because what's going on at this point is that priests are essentially weaponizing the sacraments as something to hold over people, right? At least that's my understanding.
We covered a Christian film pretty recently called Persecuted, and it's a terrible movie. Never see it. But in it...
Persecuted here!
Holy shit, I didn't expect that at all. I thought somebody in my house was yelling. I was like, what the fuck is that?
Ted Cruz is in your home.
Oh, no!
So in that episode... You know, it is trying to be a Christian thriller action movie about a man being canceled, right? Nice. For the murder of a teenage girl. And within that movie, they have a lot of they have a whole subplot that is just about the infighting of the church selling out to the government. And it is funny that, again, that is also a didactic piece in the modern day that is also reckoning with the sins of the church as an organization, which I think is that again, we're not so different.
Obviously, if you are medieval, the sacraments mean a really great deal. And there is also this kind of trope that is both literary and artistic that's called the good death. Okay, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea is there's two kinds of death. There's the unexpected death, which is what we're experiencing in Everyman when you aren't ready. Mm-hmm. And there's the good death. And the good death is when you get your extreme unction and everything and you do your confession. So it's like, you're dying and you're like, okay, get the priest in. The priest comes, he hears your confession, you get absolved, you get extreme unction and you get the oil and everything. Your family comes around you and they go, oh, we're all so sad, and you're dying. So everybody knows that this is kind of an ideal, and it involves two of the seven sacraments. So that's rather a lot, right? So both the extreme unction and confession. But it's usually contrasted with this unexpected death and the idea that you could die at any moment. And so in art, that's also a trope that's called oftentimes the three living and the three dead, where three fancy dudes will be out hunting most fancily, and then they're confronted with three corpses who are like, I used to be a fancy boy and now I'm disgusting. And you're supposed to think about that.
Somebody cast the three of us in those roles.
I hate when I'm out hunting and someone mories my memento.
Mm-hmm. But there is also this kind of tension with sacraments because, like I say, especially in the late medieval period, you do have problems with priests and stuff being like, damn, that's crazy. I'll need some money for that, right? Yeah. It's something that you will get accusations thrown around that priests are demanding money for baptisms or for last confessions and things like that. So there's also this kind of tension where everyone agrees you can have these things. And even people who are super critical of the church, like your John Wycliffe or your Jan Hus, for example, they will be like, well, even if the priest is sinful, it still works because it's about the intention. It isn't about the guy who does it. But there is also this worry, can you pony up?
Yeah.
For the necessary sacraments at the end of the day. So, this is all kind of fraught for medieval people, and it would have these different layers of meaning within it, I think.
Oh no, I can't afford my last rites. I spent it all on indulgences.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Oh no, my goods. Yeah, it's so interesting.
I was never meant to love you.
Because I feel like this does not give that benefit of the doubt to bad priests. It's no, people's souls are getting completely fucked up in the afterlife because they have a bad priest. So I want you to know from this shit cart that I stand here now, if you have a bad priest, just listen to me and remember these sacraments 7.
They had to do it. They had to do it to him because the problem was so extant. It was so all around them.
Yeah.
And in the defense of the sacraments, also, if we can be so bold as to read a little bit back onto it, it sounds like somebody making a defense to the kinds of things that were probably going around in academic or smaller circles that would form into Martin Luther's critique of 5 of the 7 sacraments in his 95 Theses.
Yeah, and I think that it's no coincidence that this play was written in the Low Countries and that and then that it was translated and popular in English, because these are the places that end up being some of the most primed for the Reformation.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, also, I would say that having a rich character who is some kind of merchant or something, that's very fucking Low Countries coded.
During this mercantilist.
That's so Belgian.
Yeah.
I tell you what.
Yeah, everybody carrying around their sacks of gold and deist.
To the point of sacks of gold, right?
What's your line? Tell me why you wear that sack of gold.
Jesus.
So all of the people that have been around, all of Everyman's buds, right? They're all basically gone at this point, except for, again, knowledge and good deeds.
Yeah, his strength, his beauty, they have stayed with him longer than his family and friends, but they're now abandoned.
But they still freak out.
They're abandoning him now that his body is failing. They're like, I literally cannot cross this threshold with you.
Right.
And knowledge can't really necessarily cross either, but she's like, I'll hold your hand until the very moment you blink out.
And Everyman's kind of like, damn, guess you were fake friends after all.
Yeah.
Especially you, Knowledge. And Knowledge is like, I was here. The only reason you're going to heaven is because of me, you jackass.
Yeah, what are you doing?
I also love that Strength has this line, go thrust thee into the ground.
Yeah,
his
he gets
strength
mean.
exit line, and I'm like, hell yeah, dude, that is so metal.
And it's like, again, this is where the day is sort of a metaphorical space where it's both a day, but it's also life, because it's like the deterioration of the body, the mind, the senses as you grow older and get closer to death.
And Everyman kind of realizes that his number has come up, and he commends his spirit, and an angel shows up to take him home.
Methinketh, alas, that I must be on, to make my reckoning and debts to pay, for I see my time is nigh spent away. Take example, all ye that this do hear or see, how they that I loved best do forsake me, except my good deeds, that bideth truly.
All earthly things are but vanity. Beauty, strength, and discretion do man forsake.
Whoops.
Foolish friends and fair spake all flee, save good deeds, and that am I.
Have mercy on me, God most mighty, and stand by me, thou mother and maid, Holy Mary.
Fear not. I will speak for thee.
Here I cry, God, mercy.
Shorten our end, diminish our pain. Let us go and never come again.
Into thy hands, Lord, my soul I commend. Receive it, Lord, that it be not lost. As thou boughtest me so defend and rescue from the fiend's boast, that I may appear with that blessed host that shall be saved at the day of doom. In manus tuas, of might's utmost forever, commendo spiritum.
And so here we know that Everyman is going to go to hell because he's actually not a Christian. He's a Mary worshiper. He's a fucking mackerel snapper.
Wow.
He's an evil papist. That's right. Yeah. He just accepts death. Like it's completely different than earlier. He accepts death. He's decided that he's not going to try and bargain with death anymore. He says, the in manus tuus commendo spiritum meum line, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit, et cetera, et cetera. And I just it's fun how that works here, because he's like, well, I was scared, but now I'm cool because I'm going to do this. And also, all of this reads to me in the modern day as him being this is like a deathbed confession. Which is like it's like somebody who, like, they found out they were going to die on Saturday morning, or they and they're going to die 12 hours later, and so like they just say goodbye to everything except their death, and the priest comes in and gives them extreme unction. And
That's right. That's right. You get it's like baptism but with Mountain Dew. So
the priest does a sick ollie when he puts the thing on your forehead. He's like, ugh. Yeah. Anyway.
He puts it in a squirt gun, like during the pandemic, baptizing the babies by shooting them with a squirt gun.
I'm sorry, that was so fucking cool.
So
it
good.
Really
so good.
And then the mortician comes in the room and sees the doctor. He's like, "Are you Tony Hawk?" And he's like, "No, but I do look like him." And it turns out that priest was Tony Hawk.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I think this is really important when we talk about the Protestant versions of this story, right? Good deeds, because she has had all of the weight of sin removed from her, because she's been strengthened by the sacraments. She follows the spirit of Everyman all the way up, because she's going to be there at the moment of his accounting. I think, again, talking about a mercantilist society, there is this whole talk about an account book, right? How he has his wealth, and then like death opens up the old Excel spreadsheet and is like, we're going to go through all of this. And this play closes out with not the messenger from the beginning. I guess it could be the messenger from the beginning, but it is labeled in this book as a different character. It is the doctor. And he's like, okay, now you'll listen to me, this, I guess, learned professor. I imagine him coming out with like spectacles and like an extending pointer and being like, in case you missed what this play was about, do the good stuff. Be sure to whip yourself every now and then.
At the end of the day, when a problem comes along, you must whip it.
That's so true.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Eleanor, about like
Everyman,
the play
the Devo
or
musical?
Well,
Come
I mean,
on.
I guess the thing to keep in mind here is it's interesting to us because we do not share the medieval Christian form of morality. And the thing is, most plays like this, it's like, oh yeah, you're going to go to hell. Like things are very, very bad. And then at the end, actually, you do your confession and everything is fine. And that is also the ending of Faust, which people forget.
Yeah.
Where they're like, yeah, well, it sucks for you because you sold your soul to the devil, but Faust gets to be like, psych.
Yeah,
right
God's more powerful than that shit, baby.
And then the devil's like, oh no, I didn't know he could say psych, and then like, it's all over. And,
Curse you, God!
And so it doesn't make sense from our standpoint because there are actually very few repercussions, and I think this is also one of the things that's really different in terms of the modern interpretations, and one of the things that's really different to the Catholic medieval interpretation, where it's like, she'll probably be fine, love. Don't worry about it. Just make sure you confess. Like if you look at the chick pamphlets about this, they're like, yeah, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
Right? It's like there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do at all. Whereas like from the Catholic perspective, yes, it does involve death being like, okay, yeah, no, I've got 2 hours, go for it, and then like letting you do your confession and everything. But it also does really highlight the difference between the Catholic way of looking at salvation and the Protestant way of looking at salvation, because the Protestant way is like completely dependent upon works in this life, whereas there's a certain amount of surrender and acknowledgement of a kind of hierarchy and also the forgiving nature of God. So like Catholic God is a lot nicer than Protestant God.
Yeah,
basically.
he's upset that you're enjoying life, but he's like, okay, but I'm lonely. I need you up here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Protestant God is more or less like, I hate you, fuck you, you sicken me, you're a disgusting ant, you should die. But if 10 seconds before you die, you're like, I think Jesus was the Son of God. I accept him into my heart, blah, blah, blah. Somebody throws some water on you real quick or dunks you in a pool or whatever. And and God's like, yay, my best friend. I fucking, like, you're a fake friend, dude. Like, it was 10 seconds ago.
You were the fakest friend out of the whole bunch.
Protestantism, we've changed it to where, like, you need the priest to pray for you. You get the extreme unction. You get the last, you get everything, all that Eucharist, all that shit. And now it's just like, you just think it and basically there it is, like you think it and that'll be okay. And it's just such weird ideas of God, because God's a dick in both instances. And you're just like, how much of a dick and
what kind of a dick?
Yeah.
But also with the Catholicism, there's at least like there's procedure. I mean, the thing about Catholics is like we love bureaucracy, right? We love the red tape. There's a step by step. If you do this, it will lead to this. It will lead to this. Whereas I have always found Protestantism to be incredibly like loosey goosey. It's just like, it's so intangible in a way that like, being raised Catholic, I had things to grab onto. I could have like, if I sinned, you fill out this form in duplicate and then you're like, God's like, great, we filed it in the heavenly files, you're fine. Whereas Protestantism, it's just like,
on the ledger, right?
Your best friend's like, maybe I'll forgive you, but like maybe not.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Well, and what we see, talking about Faust, right? Marlowe's version of Faust does not get saved. He walks all the way down the path to hell. This is only about 100 years later. And this is something a lot of scholars always point to as like Everyman versus Faustus, this sort of transformation of how people start seeing that moment of death. I think another good theatrical point of comparison to this is Peer Gynt. I did an episode about Peer Gynt on the Socialist Shelf, if anyone wants to hear it. And the entire fifth act of Peer Gynt is its own version of Everyman, where we've seen Gynt live his entire life, and now he has to take an account. But he's not met by death. He's met by a cosmic button maker who's like, you were neither virtuous nor sinful enough to go to the normal afterlives. I'm going to melt you down into a bunch of buttons. And Gynt has his day where he gets to like take an accounting of his life and talk to everyone. And everyone's like, yeah, no, that sounds about right. I think you're going to be a button. And then he finally ends up with the woman that he abandoned long ago. And basically the whole point of Peer Gynt is like, who knows what's going to happen afterwards? Just wait it out until you die.
Nice.
And of course, Ibsen was a Norwegian. He was a 19th century Norwegian Lutheran. And That is one form of Protestantism, but we're even going to skip past the high church Protestantism, the mainstream Protestantism, and we're going to be zooming in the next half all the way over to fanatical, fundamentalist, evangelical Christianity.
It's the United States of America. The year is 1964. Join us in the second half for This Was Your Life.
Celestial object number 2085, heretofore known as the pocket watch. As relayed to me, Alistair Adelman, through the documents of my father, Dr. Archibald Adelman, who disappeared on the night of January 15th, 1998, to parts unknown. For any fellow celestial scholars listening, I apologize for the noise. I am currently on a train bound for Providence, North Carolina, to examine the last known whereabouts of the pocket watch for myself. The time is 2:53 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The date is June 18th, 2000. We are currently between the Petersburg, Virginia, and Rocky Mount, North Carolina stations. The view is breathtaking. The train is soothing. I bought a ham and cheese sandwich from the dining car. It is fine. I have almost the entire carriage to myself, so I should be able to record my thoughts with little to no interruptions. Now, ticket, please! Apologies, listeners. I did not hear the ticket man approach, and in my panic I may have thrown my tape recorder so hard it shattered into many tiny pieces all over my ham and cheese sandwich. But never fear, dear colleague. I always carry a backup recorder just in case. And a backup to that one. And several more backups after that. Now, the pocket watch. According to my father's writings, on the night of December 2nd, 1953, a 7-year-old boy referred to in the official case documents as K is reported missing to local Providence law enforcement. A community-wide manhunt ensues. The entire town basically turned upside down. But after 2 weeks of searching, there is no trace of K to be found anywhere. No trace, that is, until the night of December 25th, 3 weeks to the day after his initial disappearance. When Kay walks into his family's living room, looking exactly as he did when he had last walked out that door 3 weeks prior, he is shaken, but none the worse for wear. Save for the fact that he continually insists that he has a sister named Lottie. His official statement reads as follows. We found a pocket watch up on the hill. Lottie said to hand it over, but I wanted it for myself. We fought over it, and that's when the sky opened and the man with the many faces appeared. He said if I opened the watch, he would give me more time. I don't understand. My sister, Lottie. Why don't you know Lottie? Why doesn't anyone know Lottie? Did the man take him? The man with too many faces? Where is he? Do you know him? You do, don't you? You do know him. What did you do to my sister? What did you do to my sister? What did you do to my sister? What did you do to my... It was then that a sedative was administered. Now, I've scoured the birth records of everyone born in Providence, North Carolina from 1935 to 1953. And there isn't a Lottie among them. So, what happened on that hill in 1953? What became of the pocket watch? And what exactly have I gotten myself into? Next stop, Salisbury! I'm going to put a bell on you! The time is now 4:43 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are moving between the Kannapolis and Providence stations, and I apologize, fellow scholars. I don't particularly like getting personal in what are supposed to be fairly straightforward catalogings of otherworldly objects. But Today is Father's Day, and, well, you see, it was a tradition in my family for many years that whenever Father's Day would roll round, I would ring my dad and have an exactly 47-minute conversation with him, wherein he would ask me about my life, my work, my thoughts on the recent football match. I think he thought that if he asked enough about them, I would someday actually watch a football match, and then we would hang up the phone and not speak again for another calendar year. My mum would try to get us to chat more often, find something in common. Watch a football match, for pity's sake. Ask him about his research, but I never did. There will always be another match, I thought. There will always be another call. So today, when we stopped at Salisbury, I used a payphone to call his landline. Out of instinct more than anything else, really. And it wasn't until I got his machine that I remembered. And I just started crying. Inconsolable, really. Because I still hadn't watched a bloody football match. I'm no detective. I'm a substitute teacher. Well, ex-substitute teacher now, I suppose. But if I can do this, if I can get to the bottom of this, I could find him and bring him home. I could give him a ring, and he'd pick up the phone, and I could maybe, just maybe, tell him about the recent football match. I think I can do that. But first, can anyone tell me which team Manchester is?
Is this seat taken?
I gave you my ticket, leave me alone!
Hey, easy there, Stash Man. Don't need your ticket. Just a seat. Name's Melvin Mulligan. Friends call me Mel.
My apologies. Alistair Edelman.
Alistair? Oh, posh name that. Knew a fella named Reginald Leonidas Wolfinger once. Insufferable. Wore a polo outfit just like around. Can you believe that? Looked like a bleeding traffic cone.
Oh.
So, what brings you to scenic Providence, North Carolina, Alistair Edelman?
Business. Yourself?
Oh. Business too, I suppose. But between you and me, Mr. Mustache, I ain't here for any old conference, no. I have come to Providence, North Carolina, to find me an angel.
So we are back, and we are now finding ourselves in the 20th century.
Whoa!
And the moment is no longer British medieval Catholicism. The moment, the heat, the hotness, the big shit is the IFB.
The new shit card is the IFB.
The Independent Fundamentalist Baptist Church
Let's
of the
go.
United States of goddamn America. And their greatest prophet, Jack D. Chick.
Oh my god.
The D stands for D's nuts.
Yeah.
That's so true. Just out of curiosity, before we get into the Jack Chick's whole deal, were we all familiar with Jack Chick going into this episode? Because I certainly was.
Yeah, definitely me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huge fan.
Jack Chick was so ubiquitous that my Church of Christ, which believed all Baptists were godless heathens as well, carried Jack Chick tracts. Like he was he's ubiquitous in that arena, or was at the time.
I was surprised to learn that he was Baptist because I just assumed he was Pentecostal, because whenever I got a hold of a Chick tract back home, it was distributed by a Pentecostal church.
Yeah.
And he shares that same sort of obsession with demons and witches and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess just like the little 10-second thing about the difference between Pentecostals and Baptists, for those not in the know. Pentecostals are all about this idea that worshiping God is this transcendent, full body emotional experience. You get the speaking in tongues and all that
prophecy,
bullshit.
yeah.
Baptists are all about the idea that in order to be a follower of Jesus, you must get baptized, and there is something about the act of getting baptized.
I'm going to disagree with that, Josh. I'm going to say that baptism is a cultural thing. It's what makes you Baptist. It is absolutely not what makes you Christian. What makes you Christian is simply the singular act. You do it once in your life and you're golden, of inviting Jesus Christ into your heart. Yes. And then that's it. The baptism is more to become part of the fellowship.
Unless you are one of the fundamentalist sects, like the Church of Christ, which believed that baptism was essential, and you couldn't, like, it wasn't sprinkling, it wasn't a thing like that.
You dunk,
had to be
bitch.
fully thrown into the water and come back out, like it says in the Bible. And
that's the world that you grew up in, right, Luke?
Oh yeah. Horrifying.
And that's the other thing is, like, especially in the world of Jack Chick, theology, that kind of book learning shit. No, you need only 66 books, and they are in the fucking Protestant Bible.
That's right.
Everything else is commentary. And in Jack's case, and I don't know if this is the case with your church, Luke, it's King James Version only.
That's right. We'll accept a New King James, maybe. You gotta be real careful here. If I see goddamn ESV, I swear to God,
it's on site.
You get your woke Bible translation shit out of my church, and you get it out now. I need everyone to be talking in these and thous. I need everyone to be like pontificating like they're on British stage and screen in the like 20s or whatever.
I need endless lists of names. I need to know every single name of every single ancestor.
You gotta know who begat whom, man.
Yeah.
I need to be personally scandalized and horrified with myself that I cannot simultaneously embody the contradictions that are inherent in these books because they're written over different times by many different people and everything like that. And the fact that I can't do that is a personal problem of mine.
Personal failing.
It's a failing of mine.
Here's the thing. They were inspired, so you got to suck it up.
I never believed in young earth creationism because evolution and dinosaurs and shit is too cool. Like that never broke into me. But I knew people who did. I'm not kidding about that. Like when I was a kid, like people would be like, oh, this shit's fake. These dinosaurs were put here by the devil. I was like, you shut your fucking mouth right now. If you say a T-Rex isn't cool, we're going to fight.
Well, what I learned was scientific creationism, which was just saying that like radiocarbon dating isn't actually real. And the dinosaurs died because they couldn't fit on the ark.
Oh, okay.
So some things have happened since 1500.
Really?
And even more stuff happened in early America. And so the theology now, right? Everyman was written at a time where you couldn't get the Bible in English, right? That's really important. And here, now we have an evangelical tradition that starts, that kicks off in the 19th century in America that is based entirely around the Bible. That's based entirely around the growing rate of literacy that happens in America. And the fact that, yes, you can read this thing because King James got it translated and everyone has access to it. So we can throw away that filter of the priesthood, of the sacraments, and also throw away any of that egghead stuff. We can throw away the theologians and everything like that. We are just going straight to the text of the Bible.
I think we should note, if you don't really know as much about the religious history of America, Catholicism in America was considered like a defect of character until like
John F. Kennedy.
I've told this story before, but like my grandmother, when I was a kid, I still remember her being mad that they preempted her soap operas in 1963 to announce Kennedy's assassination. She called him a filthy papist.
Yeah.
I swear to God. That was in like 1987. This people in America really didn't like or trust Catholics at all. And
nor should they.
My mom told me a story about when she was a little kid. And having a bad day, and like people in her family were picking on her, and she says, the way people treat me around here, you'd think I was Catholic.
Yeah, my parents growing up in the 60s, they both went to a Catholic school, like in the Chicago area. And they used to have to go outside and do the Pledge of Allegiance in front of a flagpole that was outside to to prove that they were like sufficiently American to attempt to kind of like undo the Catholicism.
Right, and not enthralled to the papacy.
Yeah, and which is interesting too, because like Chicago is one of the most Catholic cities on earth, so it's kind of crazy.
Exactly.
But still, you know,
in like the early American like colonial days and stuff, you know, while in England they'd celebrate Guy Fawkes Day, you know, on the 5th of November, the day the gunpowder plot was foiled. In America, we skipped the middleman and we made it into Pope's Day. So instead of burning effigies of Guy Fawkes, we just burn effigies of the Pope and as many nipples.
Well, I feel like Jack Chick probably burned a Pope effigy or two in his day, right?
For sure. Jack Chick's main thing,
the Pope.
His main thing was anti-Catholicism. Other things about like this kind of theology, right? Once you're saved, that's it. There's no continual practice. I think a Pentecostal, they wouldn't say this, but they have their sacraments in the form of speaking tongues. And works, to someone like Jack Chick, in his tradition, works don't maintain your salvation or guarantee that your good works will come with you. They don't come with you. All that you have is the grace of the Lord, because even one sin is one too many. And so your works are about the advertisement that you make for Christianity. If you walk in sin as a Christian, then other people will see you as a hypocrite and not join. There is also a Calvinist characteristic too, which is like bad preachers. He liked to talk about bad preachers all the time, and he'd draw them with little devil tails sticking out under their suits. There are also just fake Christians.
It should be noted that like this strain of extremely conservative evangelical Christianity in America, like, yeah, once you take Jesus into your heart, as the Baptists would say, or once you're baptized or whatever, you're good. Yeah. Until you sin again. And then when you sin again, you gotta ask God to forgive you. And then when you do it, and God will always forgive you as long as you're sincere about it. But like, the thing about it is it's not even like they perfected the Catholic shaming there. They really did, because it's no longer just like, you know, you need to go to confession every once in a while. You can kind of half-ass it, go to church, blah, blah, blah. It's the Bible is literal. Every word in it is divinely inspired and unabridged. Any sin that you commit after like the last time you prayed to God and asked for forgiveness means you're going to hell. Like you are going to hell. There's no purgatory. There's no prayer for the dead.
Oh, definitely.
There's nothing like that. It's just, you're going straight to hell. And like, that's the thing. That's the thing that still lives with you. Every once in a while, it still creeps up in me. Even
we
though
talk
I've been
about
out
that
of it
Protestant guilt all the time. Yeah,
I find the American Protestant reliance on the King James Bible incredibly funny.
Yes,
given that like, you know, King James is Anglican, right? And, you know, you go ahead and like talk trash about Catholics all that you want. But Anglicans are just like, well, now the king is Pope. And like King James, like famous fucking drunk, like absolute like probably gay, you know, at least like bi. You know, like this is not exactly an advertisement for the walking embodiment of holiness. And I just always find that as a translation to look to, going with King James is like absolutely fucking bonkers. Now, are there things that King James has done that I love? Yes, his demonology, fucking hilarious, absolutely wild.
What an evangelical would say in response was, okay, so he was a drunk and he was bisexual, so was King David. And yet,
so true.
And yet, God used him.
So too is Donald Trump.
One of the cases that they make is that, I mean, this is true. I mean, the IFB like case for the KJV only, and they always say 1611 KJV, but it's always transliterated into modern, you know, standardized English spelling. It's never 1611. Their case is that, well, the divine right of kings. They straight up say this. It's very funny as an American in an American tradition to be like, well, divine right of kings. However, if King Charles were to do another translation, they probably wouldn't run with that.
But which is hilarious because it's like, okay, so is like Louis the 14th, you know, then like he was fine even though he was Catholic. I mean, just I know
that's a false god. Is the
Chick
thing.
right now? One of their newer publications is one that's talking about the original Spanish Bible and why that's actually okay and secretly not Catholic. It's secretly woke. It's a whole thing. It's a whole series of justifications for something that in its spirit is like, well, we're just bringing the text of the Bible to the people. And now it's becoming, you know, more and more antiquated and more on high. that it, these cycle, it recreates itself.
I like Bibles that are made by kings and queens, but like especially if they are busy torturing Jewish people. That shit goes off. God loves it.
Only those kings. Yeah. So Jack Chick, and I won't go into like all the details of his life because we could do an episode about Jack Chick or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. It depends on how much we want to torture AJ.
Of a guy. He is the most guy who ever thinks.
Let me paint a picture. If you are, I don't know, let's say younger than like, I don't know, 35 or so, maybe even like later than that. But if you're under 35, I need you to understand that back when we only had a few memes a year, and news
the supply was limited.
Glacial pace.
Yeah, it was just Lorena Bobbitt and O.J. Simpson. Yeah,
you could find a chick track and you could take it to school with your friends and you could fucking laugh at it, because even when I believed in this stuff and I was serious, I was still like, this Jack Chick stuff's fucking stupid. What is this guy on about? But
into it. I was into it sincerely.
We do use Jack Chick tracks as memes that people hated him because he told the truth.
Of course. Of course.
And there are so many parodies out there. The Church of the Subgenius did one. National Lampoon did one back in the 70s. Rick and Morty did one. The comic Oglaf did one that, uses their god Sithrak. There's a Cthulhu mythos version of a chick tract. I mean, it's still so vital. And I feel like everyone has come across these little, at least certainly in America, everyone has come across one of these little comics, right? And it's a little wide tract on
Brian is
very
holding
matte paper,
an actual tract, just for the sake of the audience.
And again, if you're not religious, you might not know this. We're not saying track with it, T-R-A-C-K. This is tract. T-R-A-C-T, a small little folded booklet that you could go through, and it would give you a primer on a subject. Now, these are almost exclusively associated with religions now, but used to, like, socialists would hand out tracts like this and stuff.
That's what inspired Jack Chick, was because of the success of red communism in China being built on small pamphlets being handed out all over the country. When he
Quotations
heard
from
that,
Mao Zedong and things of that nature.
He was like, I'm going to do that with Christianity and with my extremely fundamentalist Christianity.
If I had an artistic bone in my body, I would now devote my life to doing like the history of the Chinese Communist Revolution, but with Mao as like the protagonist, and like in the style of Jack Chick. So like a landlord is like, please Mao, I only rented it out to 7 people, and Mao's like, away, I know thee not.
Mao's on a big throne, faceless,
and he gets thrown.
Hell yeah.
So Chick was a theater kid. He was born in 1924.
Yes.
He lived a super long time.
I am not surprised.
He died in 2016. He was active in his high school. He grew up in Southern California, lived basically all of his life in California.
I am not surprised yet again.
He was active in his high school drama club, studied at the Pasadena Playhouse School that was around in the 40s.
Yeah.
He went off, served in World War II. There are a couple of conflicting accounts as to whether he fought at Okinawa or whether he saw no combat at all, but he did apparently know a number of people who died.
I was going to say, there's a number of conflicting accounts about who he was fighting for.
Jack Chick was the last soldier they found on the island who still thought the war was on.
He and Mishima were best friends.
Well, he's a very mysterious person. For a long time, the only picture that we had of Jack Chick was his high school yearbook photo that someone fucking dug up. And then they found out about Pasadena.
Bill Watterson.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't even know his name other than the fact that when he started the company and started publishing these things before the company even, his agent was like, we're calling it Chick Publications. And then he just sort of held on to it. But there's a lot of anonymous work that goes into this stuff, and he remained mysterious, and people for a long time didn't think that there really was a guy named Jack Chick, also because it's a weird name.
It also just sounds like an incitement to jacking chicks off. It goes against everything they stand for.
Yeah, Jack and the D's of chicks.
That's right.
So he went back to Pasadena Playhouse after the war and was in a few productions. I was trying to like find any kind of list of the productions they did in the 40s. I couldn't find anything, but it's possible that maybe he was like doing stuff with Gene Hackman. I don't know.
Fuck.
Oh,
when
my
he
God.
was back at Pasadena Playhouse, he met his wife to be, and she was a super fundamentalist Christian, and Jack Chick apparently was not. at that time.
This was the same thing that happened to Ronald Reagan, by the way.
Yeah.
Type of dome gets you, makes you wake up fundamentalist, things of this nature.
That fundamentalist Canadian sloppy toppy that Jack Chick got from his wife. He was working for he was drawing diagrams and painting signs and stuff, but he was working for a company when he decided to self-fund a print run of something called Why No Revival. That was his very first tract in 1961.
I'm always asking this.
And this was a polemic. This was like written about Christians for Christians. It was for the church to like talk about all of their hypocrisy. And it shows like Christians who are bad parents and bad preachers, and it's somewhat incoherent, but it makes sense if you know IFB people and you can kind of line up all the different things that he's saying there. And of course, like everything that we talk about regarding Chick, all of it is available to read in digital form on chick.com.
Well, it was incoherent because he was getting that dome at the time.
Yeah, sure. So
I'm just saying, yes, I agree.
So after a couple more Chick tracts were published, some of them funded by his boss, he ended up publishing This Was Your Life in 1964. This is far and away the most famous of all of his tracts. His writing has been translated in over 100 languages. It's possible that this tract alone has been translated into over 100 languages. It has never been out of print. And of course, he owned his own printing. You know, he did the whole thing vertically. At first did all the drawing and writing, later hired an artist named Fred Carter, probably hired a couple more artists. But when people think about the really dramatic, super extra art that they get from the Chick tracts, those are usually Fred Carter. Jack Chick's own style was a little bit more simple, as you can see in this one. It's a little bit more flat, a little bit more cartoony.
He's very talented artist. His line work is great. His shadowing is phenomenal. As far as I understand these things, it just looks great. Yeah, and it's a shame, literally a shame that he used this for evil. Like, dude could have made some of the like coolest fucking X-Men comics in history, and that would have been infinitely more useful.
If there's one thing to take away from this, is just don't go into the theater.
Yeah,
because
the art is so powerful.
It's genuinely wild to think about the fact that This Was Your Life and its like adaptations and versions may well be the single most read work of literature outside of like the Bible in the 20th century. Yeah. And that's not an exaggeration.
I hate that. Jesus fucking Christ.
Really all right. If you guys need me, I'm going to be in the other room swallowing numerous pills.
So Fred Carter, who was himself a black man, he just died a couple years ago in 2022. Okay. He also drew all the black versions of these tracts. So the one that I'm holding on to that I found at Yankee Stadium just a few days ago, Your Big Moment, is the black woman version of This Was Your Life.
I loved the art for this one because it really reminded me of, do you know that the meme with like the chick ignoring the high school nerd and then he's rich and she comes back pregnant? It looks exactly like that. And I was like, I'm losing my fucking mind. I can't handle this.
In addition to that, there are 5 of, and I'm sorry to step on your lines, host, but there are 5 of these different tracks, 4 of them that mimic This Was Your Life for different people and ethnic groups. And so you get the one that's for black people, and it's really cool, except there are slight differences in them. You know, they change the skin tone a little bit, but for the most part, the images all say the same. There's these people sitting at church, and the person who died is like looking, they're like bored, like, oh, this sucks, I'm so bored. But then occasionally they get changed. So the angel in all of them is either you can't see him or he's a white guy. But in this, the angel is like a black Adonis. Like, he's like, I'm sorry, but I've already painted you as the whiny nerd who's going to hell, and me as the Chad angel. And the other one that I really like is that the one for Asian Americans, when he wakes up, he is naked, but he's just so fucking ripped, like just like steroid ripped,
jacked.
Chris Evans in the Avengers, Hugh Jackman in the Wolverine movies.
That's my favorite one. That the artwork in that one and the shadows, the heavy shadows are so cool. There are actually two different Asian ones. Of course, we're talking about just the English language versions, but like there's one that's like more South Asian, more like Filipino looking.
Oh, cool. All right, nice.
There's the one that's for African American readers, and then there's also the African version, which is basically the same the same artwork, but the clothes are more African looking in the perspective of a Black American guy who was born in like the 1930s from California. For the most part, along gender lines, you have the exact same text. So the men version, whether they're white, black, or Asian, it's all the same. And then for the women's version, they have stuff like when she experiments with bisexuality.
Right. We might as well pull us right now into the tract itself, right? We're going to talk about this really cool tract and what happens. Link down in the show notes if you want to read along.
The first panel alone is just such a masterpiece. We have this guy standing by his sports car outside of his nice house. Inside the house, the TV is on, and it shows that he's watching some sort of violent gangster picture from like the 30s. A guy's getting stuck up, right? He's not keeping his mind on pure things, on whatever is good, whatever is noble.
No, there's a very, very small Jimmy Cagney that you can just see through the window.
Even smaller than the normal one.
The tiniest Jimmy.
This man is also doing some things that to your average 20th century Baptist would be bad coded. He is smoking a pipe. He is drinking some liquor. He is not eating the requisite rubber buns to go along with that liquor.
Come on. He's also dressed like me in puffs, which I found to be a personal attack, frankly.
Nice little leisure jacket, a sensible sweater.
Turtleneck.
Yeah, this is the 50s guy. Like, if you you could change his profession by putting some arm patches on the sweater. You could make him a professor, but other than that, he's ready.
Yeah, the professor variant of the chick tract.
This man is woke.
This is the strongest image. This is how I just understood things to be. The Grim Reaper shows up and touches him on the back, which is what kills him. And that is how I've always thought of the Grim Reaper because of this comic. He touches your back and you're gone.
He looks like he just shows up and punched him in the back. Like he's just like, "Hey, motherfucker, surprise!" Pow! And you're like, "Wait, death?" Oh,
yeah. So that's this version of Everyman, right? This guy just fucking croaks.
But it's also like, what's the scythe for? That's the thing. Like, if death can just touch you and make you gone, why you carry around big scythe?
Well, it's his key item.
I hate when I'm drinking scotch with my sports car out on the driveway, and then the Grim Reaper comes and punches me in the back.
So our protagonist, our Everyman, just falls on his back. He's stone dead. And of course, as he is underground, 6 feet under, the people on the surface are eulogizing him. We've got a guy saying, he was a good man. But
it's this cross section of the grave. You see the dirt, you see the coffin.
Immediately then, this man, our Everyman in this particular tract, right?
Yeah.
He is fucking yeeted out of the ground. He is now fully nude. He becomes nude. A big voice yells, "Arise!" And he says, "What's happening? Wait, I'm dead. It's all over."
No.
He looks like he's his own penis in this shot. I'm so sorry. It looks like when he arises, he just a very small version of him is just popping out of his pants.
Another thing that we're not mentioning here, because I think all of us learned to phase these out, is there's a Bible verse on like every fucking panel.
Yes.
And it's so
nonsense.
much.
I got really angry at this because it's all from like different and disparate Bible books.
Yeah.
And then like right at the end, like they're using stuff from Revelation.
That's
and I'm
right.
I'm like, this isn't about individual judgment. It's about the judgment at the end of the world. Fucking sort it out,
Eleanor, I don't want to hear your fancy Catholic book learning. We have to use context for these verses.
Right. No.
It might not mean that. I don't want to hear it.
The words are the words are the words. That's
right,
how it always is with this shit.
Well, if you really want to find your spirituality, just hit Control Find. And
It doesn't matter if Revelation is John like tripping off of poisoned toads on Patmos or whatever. It doesn't fucking matter that he said that. These people are like, no, there's going to be 4 horsemen. They're going to come up.
I'm not even mad about that bit. I'm just like, it doesn't apply to you as an individual. Like, I do not see, this is about the last judgment. It's not about your individual death. God damn it.
myopically focused on the self.
To be clear, the 4 horses do relate to me personally. But
another interesting thing about this versus other chick tracts, later chick tracts, is that in the speech bubbles, the lettering is done by hand. Later on, everything else is going to be typed. And of course, the Bible verses here are typed. So the angel takes this nude everyman or every woman, depending on what you're reading, and is like, it's time to go to judgment. We're doing this. You have an appointment. And they zoom through all of the stars. They take the second one to the right and go straight on till morning. And then we're in God's waiting room, which is this giant brutalist, cavernous chamber.
It fucks a bit.
Yeah.
I really like it.
It's this fucking Wings of Desire shit is what is the note to it.
Yes. And God, as portrayed in these tracts, is a very bright, glowing, huge guy on a throne. We don't see his face.
No matter what the style is going to be going forward in the other chick tracts, you're basically going to see God in the exact same pose with this exact same like featureless face shape and the glowing and the throne. It's always this.
And so here's what ends up happening to our everyman. He now is being judged. God, sitting up on his throne, says, review his life. And then the angel, who's very small down on the ground, says, yes, Lord. And now Everyman gets the opportunity to watch his entire life on what I would call celestial vision. It's a movie of everything he's ever done on the biggest screen you can possibly imagine in space.
Yeah. Well, and we see like him as a child, right, as a little baby. And then if you read the woman version of this, it's the same baby, but with a bow.
Things that we see him doing as part of this film include telling a dirty story to his friends.
Yeah.
Or in the lady version, becoming a bisexual.
Bisexual.
Right. That's right.
I love this because like it has the chickism ha, which is always spelled H-A-W.
Right.
And he's about to tell a dirty joke, which is the worst thing Jack Chick can imagine.
That's right.
It's like someone telling a rubber buns and liquor joke.
We've also got a panel where the guy is standing in an alleyway looking out and only putting one eye out as a lady walks by and saying, nice.
And you know what? He's right. This woman is a bombshell.
Yeah, she's
doing great. I will say, this is a panel that looks the most like a Junji Ito drawing. It's like, it's literally, he's screaming, this hole is for me.
Yeah.
This poor woman.
I like the black man version of this one where he's watching a lady on TV and he is getting out of his seat and screaming at his television. Nice!
He's jorking it to a fully clothed woman on TV.
He's watching the Gong Show and losing his mind.
The black woman version, the next version of this is she's like, I'm leaving. I'm going to marry Todd. And the daughter's like, Mama, don't. You're like, wait, what the fuck? These things aren't co-equal. What is happening here?
What I find funny is that both the white woman and the black woman are leaving their husband and daughter for a man called Todd.
Yeah.
And now I have to wonder if it's the same Todd or like,
Marie Todd.
I like to think that Todd is the guy from this tract. Then we have I don't know what to call it. We call it the expressionist Cabinet of Dr. Caligari panel, where this guy is surrounded by words that say hater of God, backbiter. What's our favorite here?
Whoremonger for sure.
Yeah.
It's gotta be whoremonger.
All of this is like next to disobedient to parents. Like some of these are nouns and then some of these are unmerciful. That's an adjective. And all of the other text is like dates. It's us zooming through his life and seeing every time he was a backbiter.
All the times he did these things, different faces for the different sins. And in the middle, he's just yelling, and I am imagining this in a Seinfeld delivery. Why didn't someone warn me about all this?
Why am I persecuted here?
Yeah, that was closer to old Teddy there. But I do love that like pretty much all of these faces could just be different O faces for this guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
the whoremonger, I think, especially.
And with the woman versions, we have pornography, witchcraft. It just says drugs. A gossiper.
Oh, you can tell that witchcraft one was coming up in the 80s too, because like they were like, we got it, because Jack Chick fucking loved D&D satanic
Chick
panic.
got there first. Chick was writing about covens of witches and demons and Cthulhu being real in like 1968, and the rest of the world had to catch up to him.
That's a good point.
But yes, police were using Jack Chick guides to witchcraft and Satanism for their own police training to figure out if like a troubled teen was a witch.
They were cited in court cases. These things were cited in court cases being like, this is the idea of what witches do. Therefore, this is why these people thought these innocent workers at a daycare were acting like that. People went to jail for that. Like, I'm not kidding. It's insane.
Fuck.
Ugh. I hate America. Anyway, go
and
on.
unfortunately, Jack Chick didn't send any Catholics to jail, right? Like, we could have at least gotten the whole thing where it's like, well, at least we can imprison all the Jesuits.
So,
hey, they're doing scholarly work.
We continue with Everyman, right?
Yeah.
And now, after having seen all of his sins, he sees himself in church. And he's like, well, look, I was in church. See, I was a pretty good guy. That wasn't so bad. But wouldn't you know it? Rather than paying attention to the sermon, he's paying attention to the scores of the ball game.
He's thinking about the big game.
He's thinking about the Mets.
Man, he was doomed from the start. We didn't even need the tract then.
You're telling me, pal. And, he is fucking inconsolable at this point. He's like, fuck,
He is nude and crying like
and
me.
God at this point is like, okay, Angel, you got to open up that book. You got to open up the ledger, the book of life. And wouldn't you know it, his name's not in there.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about the woman version of this as well is that the women are thinking, I wouldn't do that because my professor would flunk me.
Yeah, I can't confess that I love the Lord because the damn college education has come for me.
God's not dead.
libs.
Yeah.
And we get the incredible image of the lake of fire, all of the lost souls, and then it cuts to a panel that's sort of simulating the screen that Everyman was watching, which just says, this can be your life.
Yeah, can is underlined here.
Yeah.
This can be your life. Well, what could it be? Now we get to see the good outcome, which is,
we see Everyman at his pivotal moment at some point in time, but he has actually done it. He has repented and become a Christian.
He listens to the pastor at church, thankfully, and, death comes back, touches him on the shoulder. He dies immediately, but this time...
He doesn't have a drink. He doesn't have a pipe. We've had this montage of him praying, mostly just praying in different settings, and people being like, he's not just a great worker, he's a great Christian.
And that's the other thing.
The person saying that is drawn suspiciously to look like Adolf Hitler.
That guy looks like Hitler.
And talking to Mengele. I don't understand what's happening here.
No, I know. But again, it's like, okay, yes, he did good works, but the works are not the point. The works are the fruit of his faith. It's not the works that get him anywhere. It's just that because he accepted God, he ended up doing a bunch of good shit.
Yeah, fuck you, good deeds.
That purification of Christianity has caused him to perform all of these good deeds. He has lived a truly good life.
I mean, crucially, though, also, when the women die, they were not good workers. They were good wives and mothers.
Oh, that's interesting.
And good Christians.
That's right.
So,
I will say that Jack Chick, when you look at the Lake of Fire sequences, you are not immune to Catholic propaganda. That is Dante's Inferno ass shit. You are copying Gustave Doré. You motherfucker. Get
fucking go
behind me.
behind me, papist.
Anyway, you every time I look at it, I'm like, yeah, dude, that's just Dante's Inferno. You are literally not immune to this.
Well, he does it even more explicitly and has Dante and Virgil show up in, I think it's called Letter from a Friend or something. Yeah. So here we see there is no sacrament. There's no he has to confess or whip himself or do anything. All he has to do is become a Christian. That does all of the work here for him. I wonder now, because now I know about the Pasadena Playhouse thing, he must have probably known about the play Everyman, which itself would be, papist doggerel. But because it was rather popular around that time, right? That radio production was in 1948 when he probably would have just been leaving Pasadena Playhouse. It was very popular through the 10s and 20s, around when he was born. And it seems like he's probably doing an explicit reference to that. And if not, I mean, it is sort of a basic enough idea that you could recreate it. It's like, okay, here's how salvation works. Here's the best way to depict it. If you die, you go to heaven or you go to hell. Let's see what those paths are.
Yeah, well, and that Lake of Fire sequence in particular, when my first chick tract that I ever found, it was just on the ground of New York City. I think that's how a lot of people find them.
Wet,
and it was wet, and it was the Titanic. It was the one where everybody on the Titanic went to hell.
That's right.
Especially those steerage passengers because they were all
Catholic.
Irish.
My mind immediately was like, oh, this must just be connected with the Westboro Baptist Church, right? This is the sort of the hate sector of American Christianity. And what I find so interesting, and having done this podcast now for 4 years, is that like that hate at the core of this chick tract and at the core of the Westboro Baptist Church, it shows itself even the more benign stuff, particularly in this episode of Adventures in Odyssey that we listened to, because Jesus fucking Christ.
So now we have a further development of the idea. So we've done an episode regarding the Twilight Zone on Adventures in Odyssey before, which is their parody of the Twilight Zone, but with life. I don't know.
Get it?
They got it. They did it.
It's a little esoteric, but come with me, okay?
It's a thinker.
Most of the episodes that they do reference a Twilight Zone episode, right? Usually they have the talking chicken referencing the talking doll. They have someone going back to their past and running into themselves again, like Last Stop at Willoughby. And this episode, which is called Two Roads,
Trust your heart.
It does not reference a Twilight Zone episode, at least not one that I'm aware of. And I know my Twilight Zone pretty well. This was written by Jim Ware, who didn't write for Adventures in Odyssey for a very long time. But this is a half-length episode. It is a 10-minute long semi-episode. They don't really do this anymore, but they did do this kind of in the late 90s and early 2000s. And Jim Ware wrote a lot of them.
And of course, our boy Phil Lawler gets a credit on this one too, because how could he not?
Because this is imbecilic stuff. Yeah. So this came out in April of the year 2000. Whit is narrating this one instead of Connie. And we run into two guys, Simon Ferris and Sonny Belio.
Yeah.
We've got our good
Coolio.
kid and our bad kid. This is a real Guinea and Gallant situation.
Are you just slurring Italians now, just recreationally?
Well, the show is. I'm just pointing it out.
It is a name that makes you like instinctually go, "Ay."
As they were walking through the school cafeteria,
Come on, Simon, toss the football. No way, you know the rules. Give it to me then. Hey, wait a minute. Go out for a pass. Over by the vending machine. But go. Okay.
What is this 40-year-old man doing in school?
Yes. Man, now look what you did. Yeah.
Oh, no.
And just look at the candy. Grab some before a teacher comes. Yeah, well, that's stealing. Not like stealing from a store or anything. It's more like finding something. Nobody's looking. Come on. No way. Suit yourself. I'm getting while the getting's good. See you later.
So you can tell I'm culturally Catholic
little
because I'm
did
like,
Sonny
he's so
know
real
he
for
had
that.
just taken his first step down a long and tragic road. Before he knew it, his entire outlook changed. He stopped going to church.
Church? Ha! For losers.
And taking things that didn't belong to him became a way of life.
Oh, shit.
Time to clean up on aisle 14, too. Come on, nobody's watching. Grab the mini monster cards.
You mean steal them?
Gonna go jerk it on
Listen,
aisle
come on,
14.
it's easy as taking candy
I
from
like
a vending
his
machine.
little henchman. I love this nerd.
He says, let's steal those mini monster cards, which I think is the only time Adventures in Odyssey references Pokemon. Of course, the bad kid is played by Nathan Carlson, who played previous bad kid Richard Maxwell on this series, for those into the lore. And Simon Ferris is Corey Burton. This is all just kind of your regulars. You got Katie Lee.
Yeah.
You got Pamela Hayden of The Simpsons.
I cannot believe Pamela Hayden was in this.
She's in a lot of it. She was in this for like 15 years.
So obviously, yeah, the echo of Richard Maxwell for those into the lore. But for those into the Lord, I'm curious to hear sort of initial thoughts on this portrayal of going down the left-hand path. What are we noticing here?
The major thing that I noticed was that he steals a Pontiac Trans Am.
Hell yeah.
Which I thought was a pretty funny thing to do in the year of our Lord 2000, but like go off. And then also they're like, oh, now he's 26 and he's a mafia boss.
That's
and I'm
right.
Like,
Yes.
what? Like he's like running a casino at 26. I'm like, this is an industrious young man.
Brian, you pulled the
Dude.
clip, right?
So yeah, he goes in and out of jail. He's doing this kind of stuff. He becomes just a top of the line scumbag. This is written like a chick tract, right? That little church, don't need it. You could see the guy from This Was Your Life doing that in every ethnicity. I've got dirty jokes to tell instead. So here's where Sonny ends up going.
By the time he was 26, Big Sonny Belial was a kingpin with the mob. He had money, cars, clothes, girls. He even ran his own casino.
Tony, is it done?
Yeah, boss. East River, cement overcoat.
What about the cops?
Don't worry about the cops. The cops got
It's a
nothing
great
on
Will
me.
Ryan performance there.
But eventually, the law did catch up with Sonny.
Oh, no.
Guilty.
I hate it when that
59 years in the state penitentiary without parole.
Only 59?
He died in
light.
prison. His good times had ended, and his bad times had just begun.
Oh, shit.
Hello, Sonny. Welcome to your new home.
No. No, please. I don't belong here. How could I end up here?
Oh, you know how. It all started with a candy bar.
And it always does.
Thank you, Dollar Store Vincent Price. Thank you.
Yeah, Josh, in the notes you said it was Earl Bowen, but it's Will Ryan doing Earl Bowen.
Yeah.
Doing
Very
Vincent
good.
Price.
Right. Yeah. It's really good. And it's funny how in Odyssey, like, all life of crime begins with the stealing of a candy bar. Like, that is a thing that Lawler falls back on a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Sometimes kids just steal candy bars and it's fine.
This, the Jack Chick thing, this imprinted on me, this depiction of hell. The little, like, spooky little, like, moans of the damned in the background kind of fucked me up a little bit.
It's also a weird thing because it's like self-aware of the fact that it's doing over-the-top pastiche, but it's also 100% sincere in its messaging.
Yeah, as an adult, it's kind of the Batman effect, right? As an adult, I'm listening to this, I'm like, oh, they're kind of being arch here. And as a kid, it's not quite far enough. You're taking it all in just kind of sincerely.
But they're not really joking either.
No,
Stylistically,
no, right.
sure, but they're serious as cancer.
No, yeah, Sonny's in
when
hell.
they say that rhythm is a dancer.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing is how Italian his accent gets at the end there. And I just kind of like it reminds me of, like, you know, the first episode of The Sopranos. It's like the difference between you and me is you're going to hell when you die. Thanks, Carmela.
He does turn into Carmela. Yeah, he's like.
Well, it's also, I think this is more like damning about our rehabilitation system than anything. I mean, he was in prison for 59 years.
Okay,
and
sounds
he's still
woke
going to hell.
me.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
He had time, you know.
He had
to
time.
repent.
If I can briefly be serious about it, like the thing about the candy bar thing is like is very real, and it is very like told to you like, hey, anything. It doesn't matter how petty. It doesn't matter how small. It doesn't matter if it's a lie. If you tell yourself a lie or something like that, it is going to send you to hell. And that creates it creates this insane neuroses, or it drives people away, or both. And like, it just, I'd never heard these. I'd never listened to them or anything like that.
Had you listened to Adventures in Odyssey before at all?
No, I had not.
Okay.
And I hadn't even heard of it. Like, the only like religious type programming that I'd ever heard was like Veggie Tales or something like that.
You knew about Focus on the Family.
Right. I just didn't know about this specifically.
Yeah.
And when he said when they did the candy bar thing at the end, I literally thought to myself, they're going to make a point about the candy bar again. They are, because all of these things are the same.
And to go one further than that, not only is it about the nature of this original sin and the fact that you can't get away from it, it's also about the idea that theft of private property is the ultimate sin.
Yeah. Right,
because that's
that's all that Sonny was doing until he was ordering the deaths of rats
with a cement overcoat.
Yeah,
like why did we waste the extra cement on the whole coat? You could really just do one shoe and it'll be.
I've got some notes. Like, I mean, if he's really running a casino, I've got some worries about his overheads here. That's all I'm saying.
And also, Big Sonny Belio is so fucking lazy. When Sonny the heel Belio is right the fuck there. I mean,
well, these people have never actually met an Italian. AJ, they're struggling over here.
Like, how'd you get your start, kid? Oh, well, now that I've killed 40,000 people because I ordered their deaths, I can tell you it's because I saw a Snickers on the ground.
Yeah,
and,
it's tough.
And went, ooh, don't mind if I do.
But you might be wondering at this point, what about Simon?
What if we go back to that same point in history? So instead of an alternate Everyman, we have two Everys men.
But what about Simon? What road did he follow after that fateful day in the school cafeteria? Well, let's go back and find out.
Suit yourself.
Okay.
I'm getting while the getting's good. See you later. I can't believe he just did that. Man, he must have real problems.
Simon went home and told his bishop.
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Naturally, they were pleased that he hadn't taken any candy.
You made the right choice, Simon. We're very proud of you.
Thanks, Mom.
A chip off the old block.
I hope so, Dad.
God, he's such a little narc.
I always want to do the right thing.
That's what I wrote.
And he did. Simon never missed church. He won every Bible Bowl contest and memorized more scripture verses than any other kid in Sunday school.
I do not forget your commandments. Psalm 119, verses 1 through 176.
Excellent, Simon. If only all of my students were as diligent as you are.
There she is. There she
quoted
is.
all 119 lines of Psalm.
All 176
lines of Psalm 119.
It's
Sorry,
pretty.
yeah.
That's a decent little gag for
Yeah,
those.
that
who
is-
know.
that's a good bit,
You're already, if you're familiar with like this kind of narrative and where they're going, you already know what's happening here. You can tell what's going on. It's like, well, this guy, he might have the auspices of morality.
We're not going there yet. No, this is setting down the path. Incidentally, sir,
No,
he's not
yeah.
only one of our best workers, but he's
Okay.
also a fine Christian. He goes to church
Yeah.
all the time. He's learned all the
This
verses.
doesn't happen until later in life,
Yeah.
and he's infected by the woke mind virus, and he starts to be like, maybe I shouldn't say that anyone who doesn't go to my specific church is going to burn for eternity in hell. Maybe that's a problem.
This episode's gonna take this a little bit further because he becomes another kind of good person in his job as well. Instead of being a car thief, he becomes the best kind of man that we know, which is a motivational speaker.
After attending Bible college, Simon launched into a successful career as a well-known motivational speaker.
Don't let the vending machines of your life get you down. Be an overcomer. If I can do it, you can do it too.
Overcome
Say it
for
with
me.
me now. I can do it. I can do it.
He grew wealthy, and he used some of his money to found a large and very famous charitable organization.
Then they have him like praying before the big charity gala. I mean, obviously this is a man with the Lord in his life, right?
I mean, I think my favorite thing about it is this idea that like the broken vending machine is somehow a universal experience. Like, it's like, you know, the vending machines of your life. Don't let them get you down. Like, sir, what? Like, I don't.
The vending machine is the event that sets us on a new path in the multiverse.
Yeah.
Like that's
Right.
like Schrodinger's event, looking into the box happening right
I
there.
want the medieval version of this where like the snack machine walks in on the shit cart and is like, I'm always here for you, Everyman.
But here's the thing, right? Not only is Simon demonstrating this incredible prowess, this incredible skill, motivating so many people, he goes one further and decides to run for public office.
Eventually, honest Simon was elected to Congress. In time, he even decided to run for the presidency.
Yes, in the back row.
Congressman, do you care to talk about any of your past mistakes?
Oh, I really don't see how any mistakes I may have made in my private life is relevant to running for president.
Bill Clinton!
Yes, Miss Favisham.
Congressman, you claim to be a born-again Christian. That is, that you've invited Jesus Christ to come into your heart and asked him to forgive you for your sins. Is this true?
So everyone here doesn't know what a Christian is.
Naturally, I believe in Jesus just as wholeheartedly as anybody else does. After all, he was probably the greatest religious teacher of all time.
Oh no.
But
Oh
so
no.
is my
Probably.
campaign and my heart for people of all faiths.
They bring
Next.
the music in. Oh no, this guy's an ecumenist.
He's woke.
But also, it's just so wild to me that a man is damned forever to hell just by saying, you know what, people with other religions, maybe they like deserve respect.
That's the thing about Protestantism. It's fucking insane. It is insane.
So we're reading where this is going, but eventually Simon, he's got to die too, and we have to see this very good man who believes in Jesus just as much as anyone else, who prays, who memorized his Bible, did all of this, right? He's going to go to heaven. We're going to see what his reward is, just like Jack Chick, just like Peter of D's Nuts showed us the reward that every man could receive.
And so Simon
He
too
falls into
came
Twin
to the
Peaks.
end of this life and the beginning of the next one.
Hello, Simon. Welcome to your new home. And your new cubicle mate.
Well, well, well. Look who's here.
What? Sonny? What? But this is impossible. I mean, you I can understand, but me, I refused to take the candy. I always told the truth. I was a good man. How could I end up here?
Yeah, it's like the system's kind of fucked, isn't it? See, your good deeds don't follow you. Your good deeds don't matter. All that matters is the salvation of the Lord. And this is my favorite trope in evangelical culture, is the Christian who isn't really a Christian because he forgot to do the prayer at some point. His life is consumed by God, by the Bible, by the church. And yet he never came across the concept of saying, God, please come into my heart. Amen. And so you got fucked. Too bad. Hell forever.
This is one of those things where there is now a new narrative that has developed. And I think it's a very specifically American Protestant narrative about what it means to be a good person, to be a good person of faith. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how this compares or contrasts with that sort of medieval narrative that we talked about in the first half in Everyman.
Largely, one of the biggest differences is for medieval Christians, good works fucking count.
Yeah.
Like good works are the one. It doesn't matter how much you love God, like especially if you're rich. And it definitely comes up in Everyman with goods. The goods are like, remember how you were supposed to be giving me away?
Yeah.
Like, remember how charity is really important? Like, and one of the things that you see over and over again in a medieval context is a specific castigation of the wealthy and powerful for being wealthy and powerful and not engaging in good works. And so charity and helping the poor or like being merciful to prisoners, those things are really, really huge on the list of things. And you can't be a good Christian without doing the good works. And the good works definitely count for you. And then, of course, there's also the fact that stuff can be done for you after you're dead.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So you might go to hell when you die, but it's kind of not hell. It's just purgatory. Like now there's this idea that purgatory is a limbo state where everything is just kind of fine and it's neither here nor there. In a medieval context, it's like hell with a timer.
Yeah.
Right. Like you will get out.
It sucks shit, but it ends.
And you have people on the other side who can still intercede on your behalf even after you're dead, right?
Exactly.
For a little bit of money.
You can pay for masses to be said for people's souls.
Right.
And it's super common. Like if you ever go, if you're ever over here in Europe and you go to an old church, you'll notice that there are like lots of little side altars along the sides. And usually that's because like some rich person from the church would endow that. They'd say, okay, I'm going to like put this altar up and I want this to be a chapel to like, you know, whatever my favorite saint is or whatever the fuck. And they'll give you tons and tons of money to say usually perpetual masses for their soul and the souls of their family. So for example, we will also see like, if you see ghost stories from the medieval period, they're usually people who are in hell who are like, please go have some masses said for my soul.
That's in Hamlet.
Yeah.
Right? King Hamlet shows up and he's like, my sins are still on my soul. I get to come up here every now and then, but most of the time I'm back down there burning and shit. So please set this right.
Exactly. And so there's always this idea that intervention can be made because like until the day of judgment, this is ongoing. So until you hit the end of the world, and then at the end of the world, there's not going to be any time for any more intervention. And that's when you have the ultimate judgment, you know, and Archangel Michael's going to come out and your little naked soul is going to stand there and get judged one more time and blah, blah, blah. So it is a really, really different way of looking at things. Because doing good stuff is good for you. Now, you shouldn't be doing it just to get yourself out of hell.
Yeah,
but God is still going to rather that you do it to get yourself out of hell than not do it. So it's kind of like there's the people who do it just because they're good and they're the best. There are the people who do it because they're like, ooh, like, I'm going to go to hell and I don't like that. And then there's the people who don't do it.
Pascal's wager. Yeah.
The thing that this points up for me as well is this thing about systems of control. Because that's what these are. These are systems of control. And they are set up to control your behavior in different ways.
I tend to look at these religious things, especially within a broad scope of Christianity, as like being much more influenced by material factors than people like to really think. And one of those things is that what we see in America now And all over the world. It's not just America. And it's not just American Christianity, not just American Catholicism, because there are Protestants in Hungary. Orban is one of them, who are this insane kind of
Fucking
evangelical.
weird. It's such a weird thing to be.
60 something percent of Opus Dei, the reactionary Opus Dei Crusader freaks, are in Europe. Like, you know, this is not just an American thing. But I think what this is it is the infection of money and politics into religion and into a church structure that had become so powerful and overarching that it controlled or was seen to control the lives of like millions of everyday people across Europe. And these things start to break down when you see like your parish priest who you really like and is a good guy, like he lives in squalor alongside you, while 100 miles away the church is in debt by 50 trillion guldens to the Fugger family so they can build the ugliest Vatican in history. And you're like, wait, what? How do you square that? And you can't square those things. And so it's just this combination of this thing. And as money and capitalism have taken over as the raison d'etre of everything from Christianity, which happened like, I don't know, probably sometime around the 30 Years' War or so, that it's all downstream of that. And now we're living in it, and we're living in this thing where Christianity for a whole lot of people is just a trapping, a window dressing that they put on everything else to make them feel good. And they don't adhere to any of this, any set doctrine or anything. It's just like, I wear this clothing because it helps me get by to the rubes that I want to fool.
It becomes an identity more than anything else. It's like, well, I simply like we see right now with the Christ is King thing, right? People putting Jesus in their bio or a cross on their name. It's like, well, I belong to this fucking club.
Right.
That's not going to change anything about how I do anything. But if I do see you being a gay, then I'm gonna shout at you. Yeah, and it's interesting to see. I mean, Chick does actually do stories like this, where like there are missionaries on a plane and they run into a guy who's like, wow, you know, I just became a Christian. I used to be an alcoholic or whatever. And you guys, you've saved so many people. And then the plane crashes. That guy goes to heaven and the two old missionaries go to hell. It's such a weird idea, and the cosmology of it. This is why people come up with ideas of purgatory. This is why you try to develop a theology around this concept, which is like God created this world, specifically put his own breath into the dust to create man, set man higher than all of the other beings except the angels, and has consigned 99.999999% of them to eternal damnation. That doesn't square up, right? Only this very, very small percentage can do it. And that's what's animating Jack Chick. That's what's animating the writers of Adventures in Odyssey. We got to reach these people. We got to get these, because every day there's thousands of people dying who are all just going to hell.
How do I reach these kids?
And so we have to save them. We have to allow them to feel the judgment on earth so that they don't feel the judgment for eternity.
All of this just seems to me like God burning ants with a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
Like that's what that's the only way I can look at
God,
it.
certainly.
Yeah.
The modern vision of God is bereft of love.
Yeah.
It really is. It's bereft of love. It's bereft of the magic. And by magic, I mean the wonder and the awe for God's creation, the human mind, the human condition, the written word, things like that, that if you believe in this, those flow from the mind of God because they flow from our minds, which are like God's. And it's, but it's bereft of all that. It's like you have to fit into these things and hate these people and do this stuff in order to get to heaven and everything. And people will say, well, that's not what the Bible says. But that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Christianity is what Christians do.
Yeah.
That's what people don't understand. It's what they do. It doesn't. You can point to the Bible all you want. That's never stopped a Christian from doing something they didn't want to do.
And
I'm sorry.
When you throw away the concept of virtue and the concept of those sort of personal works, you allow this void to be filled with the pursuit of power, the completely unbridled, unmitigated pursuit of power. it's okay. We have our own motivational speakers. We have James Dobson, and we can use this to gather because you also have so much more agency in modern America, or at least theoretically have more agency. You at least have a promise of agency that may not be fulfilled that you don't have in medieval Europe, right? You have your place.
Yeah.
And here it's like you can build something up. And so in order to advance that way, you have to be able to, if not just do terrible things and exploit people, but at the very least throw people away once you've moved past them. Mm-hmm. And you can't reconcile that with like any form of like real morality.
Yeah.
No. So you have to say the morality doesn't matter.
And I think that's where we kind of land, is like, this is a fundamentally immoral vision, I think.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Immoral and amoral, right? And I find it unconscionable.
Yeah.
Every time we get down to this shit, like we laugh at this Adventures in Odyssey stuff all the time, but when it really comes down to the core animating ideology and ethos of the thing, it's just fucking revolting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what's not revolting? Is our two beautiful guests who I wanted to take the opportunity once again to thank. Luke, Eleanor, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything that people ought to know about you, about what you're getting up to? Where should they find you, etc.?
Yeah, so a couple places, because the first thing, obviously, is you can come check us out on We're Not So Different every week. We're talking about a medieval history bullshit. But at the moment, we've got a special project, don't we, Luke?
We did a special series, a 10-part series on the First Crusade with the guys from the American Prestige podcast, Danny and Derek. And we basically just go through the background and the history of the First Crusade, and we talk about it and what happened. And then we come around and talk about its legacy. And, you know, we thought it was especially relevant given all the stuff that's happening in contemporary politics right now. And there are so many just interesting battles and stuff. If you like, literally, if you want to hear about probably fake Spear of Longinus being found, but the
like
people
literal
believe,
trials by fire,
literal trial by fire based on this. But the people in the army believed that it was real for a short time, to such a degree that they went out and defeated a much larger army after basically being starved and crazed inside of a castle for 3 weeks. So like, it's just these like insane stories, but like stuff that still applies to us today. We're still living in the detritus of the wreckage of this shit between the colonial and post-colonial world. So yeah, it's interesting. And the website for it is way too long for me to repeat here. So we'll just send it to y'all. And if y'all could put it in the show notes, great. But yeah, check it out. It's $10 or actually $8 for the first 2 weeks. You get all the episodes, and then $10 after that. So yeah, check it out if you want.
Yeah, and it's a really great opportunity to learn more about the Crusades, which most people don't actually know.
Right.
And so if you want to effectively fight with idiots who are using Crusades imagery incorrectly, it's a really nice way to do that easily.
Yeah, a bunch of guys who have built an identity off of Swedish computer games from 10 years ago.
Yeah. Or at least that they know, like, at least know why they're wrong.
Yeah. And of course, we are the worst of all possible worlds. If you're liking our show, we've got so much more of it. We've got a ton of podcast waiting for you in our archives. If you're like, oh shit, I grew up with Adventures in Odyssey, as many people have stumbled upon us, we have so many more Wit's Endless Summers. We have them all available in a nice little playlist on our Patreon. If you want to listen to our premium episodes, those are easily found on patreon.com/worstofall. And for only $5 a month, you get those premium episodes. You also get fancy movie time with AJ and myself. We've been talking about both art movies, both good and bad. We've talked about Edward II by Christopher Marlowe, as directed by Derek Jarman. Fantastic faggy movie. We talked about Being There, which we did not like. This month, we're going to be talking about Last Year at Marienbad, one of my favorites. So you get that every month if you're on Patreon. And if you're a $10 subscriber, you also get an extra thing called Ladscast that we put up every single month. That's just like our regular little monthly Shoot the Shit podcast with video most of the time.
Lads.
Yeah, so once again,
for $5 a month, you too can figure out what the fuck was happening in the Interstitial this week.
But once again, that is patreon.com/worstofall. AJ, to play us out, That's not even a sentence. Fuck it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live.
Okay. We'll do it live. Tracking Everyman from its inception, right, to its modern interpretations today, we can see actually the whole span of how Christianity has evolved over the last few hundred years, right? Where once upon a time, you could be very near death and basically speed run your salvation in order to face God with your good deeds intact, to now where the minorest of technicalities can fucking damn you to a lake of fire for the rest of time. And it just shows that over the years, Christianity has become salvation through exclusion. Like the more it splinters off, the smaller that it gets, the more it isolates you from the rest of the world, till the point where you're basically left alone contemplating a God that has no room for love because he is so filled with hate. And if you are listening to this podcast and that is your point of view, first of all, congratulations for making it this fucking far, because I would have failed much sooner. But my second message to you is one that I take from the original Everyman. It's a quote that Strength says right before they abandon Everyman forever, which is, "Go thrust thee into the ground." I'm the worst of all possible AJs.
I'm the worst of all possible Brians.
And I'm the worst of all possible Joshes. See you next week.